إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم رسوله ونبيه وصفيه وخليله، بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة صلى الله عليه وسلم. الله سبحانه وتعالى يقول في القرآن بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين. وعلمنا سبحانه كيف نحمده ونشكره بقوله تعالى: الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا قيما لينذر بأسا شديدا من لدنه ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا حسنا ماكثين فيه أبدا وينذر الذين قالوا اتخذ الله ولدا ما لهم به من علم ولا لآبائهم كبرت كلمة تخرج من أفواههم إن يقولون إلا كذبا. I bear witness that there is no God or deity worthy of worship but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, peace and blessings be upon him, is the final messenger, delivered the message, guided the ummah, and showed us the righteous way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, indeed the book before your hand is the righteous book, and taught us how to thank Him by saying all praise, all thanks, all glory be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for bestowing the Quran on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Those who have pious love and fear of Allah in their heart, they'll find guidance in the Quran that will lead them to heaven. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so loving and so clear that He sends a clear unequivocal warning to those who equate idols with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying they know nothing about this, nor do their parents, and promises them a place in the hellfire. Brothers and sisters, again, we're going to seize the opportunity and talk mostly to the youth who are off school and are with us for these couple of weeks, who are usually not here. The khutbah is for everyone, but it's geared towards the younger generation amongst us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that we are judged by our actions, that we are given a brain that distinguished us from other creatures on this planet, that allows us to choose between alternatives, and we are judged based on these actions and these choices that we make. نحن محاسبون على الخيارات اللي نعملها ونحن محاسبون على أعمالنا. So if I'm judged based on my choices and I'm judged based on my action, these things are happening right now. These things are not happening in the past, and these things are not happening in the future. They're happening right now. So the point is that I need to be living in the moment that I'm in right now, in control of the moment that I'm in right now, because I'm being judged for what I'm doing right now. The past is something I cannot change, and the future is something I cannot touch at this point in time. I can't continue to dwell on the past and drown in the guilt feeling about the past, and I can't continue to worry about the future that I'm paralyzed and I cannot do anything in this life. I need to live in the moment that I'm in right now, and that is what we're going to talk about today. How is that an Islamic principle, and what do we do to live in the moment? نعيش اللحظة اللي احنا فيها. Not 10 minutes ago, not 5 minutes from now. Live in the moment that you're in right now, because you're being judged on what you're doing right now. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at. We need to live in the moment that we're in right now, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the best example of that. The concept of mindfulness, التذكر, المعيشة في الوقت اللي احنا فيه, is an Islamic principle. We need to be fully present in the moment that we're in. Not partially present, not part-time, not when I can. I need to live in the moment that I'm in. And the best example that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us is the salah. In salah, you can't be standing there praying and your brain is with Citibank or Bank of America. Or your brain is with your kids, or your brain is with your car, or your brain somewhere else. You need to be present in the moment, doing the act, and doing all the duties required for that act at that point in time. And that needs to be extrapolated to everything else we do in this life. We men tend to think that we can multitask. That I can stand here, talk to you, but my mind is doing something else, and multiple 2 or 3 things at the same time. It is a fallacy. We only have a limited amount of attention, and that attention can only be divided amongst things. It cannot be applied equally to things. So either I'm going to stand here and pay full attention to what I'm doing, or I'm going to apply 50% attention to what I'm doing, 50% thinking about something else, and eventually I'm going to fail at both tasks. We cannot multitask. Women are much better at multitasking than men. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them that way. We men fail at that task all the time. Some are better than others, but at the end, think of it as attention that is being divided, and it cannot be fully paid in everything that you're paying attention to. So when it comes to salah, like I said, you need to be fully attentive in that salah. You're standing there in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Creator. He's looking at you, you're talking to Him, He's responding to you, and that necessitates, requires immediate and full attention. You can't stand there in front of your Creator and you're thinking about something else. Just a small example, if your manager summons you at work, it's like, I want to talk to you at 12 o'clock. You show up there, dress nicely, you have a pen and paper to write things down, and you're paying full attention to what that manager is telling you. You're not sitting there yawning or scratching your head or picking up your phone and looking at it. Full attention to what you're doing. So that's a manager, a human being just like us. Imagine standing in front of your Creator. الخالق البارئ المصور الذي أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. That if he wanted something to happen, his wish makes that thing happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala الذي قادر not just to take you or me or everyone else, but He is capable of wiping this whole thing clean and restarting it all over again. You're standing in front of the most powerful, almighty, the only God, which demands and requires your full attention at that point in time. And that act of salah requires planning. So to be mindful and living in the moment, you can't be surprised with things. People who know me best know I don't like surprises at all. I wake up in the morning and I have like a rough plan in my head of how my day is going to go. And I get really upset or off kilter or off balance if that plan changes for no reason. Like I can tolerate things like I was planning on doing this at 10, maybe it'll happen at 11, but I plan on doing X today. This is what my plan is. And if it changes, I don't get very happy. So the act of salah requires planning. You can't be just surprised, walking down the road like, oh my God, it's dhuhr. Not only do I not have wudu, I wore my socks without having wudu, I left the house without wudu, and God knows what else is going on. I'm not prepared for this. And I have commitments that take me from 11:30 to 3 o'clock, so I'm going to miss Asr with that too. Salah requires planning. Requires when you get up for Fajr, you know that Dhuhr is going to happen around noon. Give or take 20 minutes depending on the day. So I plan my day that way. I look at my schedule, it's like I have a meeting from 12 to 1. So if Dhuhr is before 12, I need to pray right when it happens. Don't delay it because I know 12 to 1 is going to drag to 1:30 and now I'm very close to Asr, especially in the winter time. Requires planning as in you do your wudu before leaving the house. So you're prepared for salah. And if something happens, you have a plan in your mind. I can do wudu here, I can do salah here, I can think about these things ahead of time. And that requires living in the moment that you're in, remembering that you're a creature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He demanded, required and obligated salah upon you. Salah is not an option, salah is not a luxury, salah is not something that you do to fill your time or when you remember. Salah is the central theme of our entire life. Everything should revolve around salah. And subhanallah, we get so busy that everything except salah is in the center. My work is in the center, my family is in the center, going here is the center. I plan around these things and I plan salah around these things when it should be the other way around. It should be that salah is the center theme and you plan everything else around it. If I'm going out to dinner, I need to make sure I leave after Maghrib. Pray Maghrib before leaving to dinner. And plan it that way. People say, oh, let's meet up for dinner. Great, let's meet up at 7:30. Or let's meet up at 8:30 so I can pray Isha and go out. Don't plan it before Maghrib because Maghrib and Isha are so close together, you're going to miss Isha or you're going to miss Maghrib. Plan your day, and I need to remind myself of this, of being in the masjid for these salah. Alhamdulillah, there's multiple mosques in this area. Within walking distance from this mosque, there's at least two more. Plan your day around that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِذَا نَوَى الْإِنسَانِ شَيْءٍ, if you wish for something and you planned and prepared for it, and it doesn't happen, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يعطيك الأجر. Gives you the rewards for it. If you plan on being here for Maghrib, you plan your day around it, you plan your activities around it, and something happens 5 minutes before Maghrib that prevented you from being here and you prayed at home, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you the ajr for that. But it's not like I planned for Maghrib being here, but you know what, I'm not going to be here. I know from now I'm not going to be here for Maghrib. That is not a plan. So mindfulness requires living in the moment that you're in, planning your day around salah. And then another principle in Islam is appreciating the present. As we get older, we tend to dwell on the past a lot. Why? Because I worry about all the mistakes that I've done in my past. And I tend to think about them a lot. And that takes you away from the moment that you're in, because your mind is in the past right now. Your mind is not in the present. And as you get older and you have kids and you have responsibilities, you tend to think about the future a lot too. What's going to happen to my kids? What's going to happen here? What's going to happen there? Is this ready? Is this not ready? And that also takes away from the brain power that you can dedicate to the present. So you end up probably dividing your brain power into threes. 1/3 worrying about the past, 1/3 worrying about the future, and only a third living in the moment that we're in. And we forget to appreciate the present that we're in. Because this moment, 11:43 on Friday, is not going to come back again. That moment is gone. It's now a past. And if you don't live that moment right now, you missed it altogether. You missed the opportunity of doing ta'ah right now. You missed the opportunity of telling someone that you love them right now. You missed the opportunity of taking care of someone right now. You can't make these things up. You can't rewind the past and say, I'm going to fix what I did yesterday. You can't fix what you did yesterday. You can only work on what you're doing now and prepare for the future. So appreciate the present. Appreciate the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Many of us, we get submerged in this life and forget the gifts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gave us. Not forget that it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but don't see the gifts. And it starts with, waking up for Fajr. The fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the health to be able to wake up for Fajr, get out of your bed, Salim, Mu'afa, your brain is there, your mind is there. You're able to get up to the bathroom, do wudu and pray. That is a huge blessing. There are millions in this world, millions that will just dream of being able to get out of bed. And for us, it's a gift. We don't appreciate that. We don't think about it. Just the fact that you woke up is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first thing that needs to come to your mind at that moment is Alhamdulillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'da ma amata. Thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He woke us up. That is a huge blessing. Many don't wake up in the morning. Many wake up but can't leave the bed. So appreciate the present. Appreciate what you have. The young amongst us, and some of the older ones too, tend to focus on what we don't have. It's not on what we have, it's what we don't have. I have a Nintendo Wii, but my friend has a PS5. You have a video game you can play with. He or she has a video game that they can play with also. But I need that PS5. That Nintendo Wii is old now. We tend to focus on what we don't have. And that's how we miss appreciating the moment that we're in. We dwell on these things. Such and such is better than me. Such and such is in a better place in life. And I remind myself and I remind others. There's only two, like don't compare yourself to others except in two situations. Two situations. In dunya, compare yourself to those who are lesser than you. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give as much as you. The health, the family, the money, everything else that you have in this dunya, compare yourself to those who don't even have a house to live in. They're living in a shelter, don't have the money to buy the next meal, don't have what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. That makes you appreciate things a little bit more. And fi umur ad-deen, compare yourself to those who are better than you. Don't get arrogant thinking, I prayed, I have my ticket to Jannah. I did Ramadan, I have my ticket to Jannah. Compare yourself to those who are better than you, and the best example we compare ourselves to is Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. Min rahmatillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the greatest mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And ba'atha lana rasulan min anfusina. He sent us a messenger, a prophet, a human being just like us. He did not send us an angel. He did not send us a super creature. He sent a human being just like us. And why is that so important? Because we know that if a human being can do it, then we can do it too. We know that the Sahaba were human beings, just like us. And they were able to do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked them to do. So there's no excuse for us not to do that. And the young amongst us, they tend to think it's difficult. I live in Fairfax County. I go to this school or that school, and I'm a minority there. I don't look like everyone else. I don't talk like everyone else. I don't have the same name as everyone else. I am in a unique situation. I am different. And this has never happened before. It wasn't that long ago. In the life of humanity, we think of time as too distant. We think that Zaman al-Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam is so far back. 14, 1500 years ago, that is a long time ago. Brothers and sisters, our entire life, humanity in general, humans have been on this planet for about 100,000 years. The life of the universe is estimated to be 4.5 billion years. The entire humanity has been on this planet for less than a minute of the life of the whole universe. So if you think 1,500 years ago was so far ago, 100,000 years is just a minute. So 1,500 years is a sub-fraction of that. And the reason I'm mentioning that, because you think you're so unique, you think you're so different, you think that no one has been through what you've been through. People were tortured for just saying, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. People were killed for just saying these words. Their families were tortured and killed in front of them for just believing in Allah. They didn't hurt anyone else. They didn't ask anyone else to convert. Just because they believed, they were hurt, tortured, and killed. So what you're going through here in Fairfax County does not even compare to what happened before. You think the world is on your shoulders. You're in a very unique situation. No one has been through that before. People has been through a lot more before. But they persevered. They continued with their belief. And that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala steps in and saves them. And that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes things easy. Appreciate the present that you're in. Appreciate the blessing that you have parents that are able to take care of you. How many orphans in this world would wish and dream for a hand to be pat them on the head? And you take that for granted here. You wake up in the morning not happy because you don't have what your neighbor has. Because you want more and your parents are not doing it. And your plan and your parents' plan are not jiving with each other. Whether you're 8 or 18, we go through the same thing. And we're no strangers to that. I'm not standing here talking about this as if I came from a different planet. I was you before. I went through all these stages. I went through the stage where my parents were completely wrong. They knew nothing in this life. Only to discover less than 10 years later, I knew nothing and my parents knew everything. I can't rewind the time to correct these things that I've done. I cannot bring them back to say how sorry I am. I cannot bring back the time to show how much I appreciate it. Seize the opportunity. We're not going to be around forever. Proactive living is an Islamic principle. And we think of these things as they're foreign concepts to Islam, but when you look at Islam, Islam requires you to be a proactive person, an active member in this lifetime, not just a passenger on this bus. You're required to take an active role in this life. This includes being merciful, being compassionate, taking daily action to maximize each moment to do good and avoid harm. That is required in Islam. إِمَاطَةِ الْأَذَى عَنِ الطَّرِيقِ. If you were walking down the street and you see a rock that someone can trip on that, or a piece of glass that can hurt someone, take that out of the road. Something as simple as that is an Islamic principle. Something as simple as thinking that I need to reduce harm and increase good in the society that I'm in is an Islamic principle. You as a young person, your mission in life at the age that you're in right now is not to go around and try to convert people to Islam. And I know people don't like hearing that. Your mission in life is to better yourself. Increase your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like He should be known. So you can live the values of Islam. So you can be that proactive member in the society that implements Islam through their actions. You're not going to be able to convince Sally or John to convert. That is not your job. Your job is to live Islam. Your job is to be the Quran walking. Your job is to live these values that we're talking about. And when you are there, eventually people around you in school or around you at work will start asking themselves, why are you different? And they're not asking it in a discriminatory way or in a condescending way. They're asking the question in a way that is curious. Why do you always do the right thing? What is stopping you from cheating? What is stopping you from stealing? What is stopping you from lying? People get curious with these things eventually. And when they discover that your connection with your Creator is what is stopping you from this, they start wondering, who is your Creator? How is He different than mine? He's not different than yours. He is one Creator for all of us. And that line goes down very quickly for them to understand that we're all creatures from the same Creator and we're all equal. And the values that I'm living is what my religion is teaching me and what my Prophet has taught me. And then they become curious about that Prophet. How did that Prophet live? What is your religion teaching you that is not teaching me? What gaps do I have? You ask any convert to Islam. They did not convert because someone knocked on their door and handed them a mushaf and said, here you go, read this and come to the masjid on Friday. They converted because they either had a friend, 99% of them had a friend who was a Muslim, either at work or in college or in school, and they became curious. Why are they the way they are? What makes them the person that they are? How are they contributing to a society? And it's more admirable for us to contribute in a society that we're a minority in than the majority of the society contributing to the society. If you're your typical person that is from this area, it is expected that you'll be a politician, that you're actively involved in all the activities. That is expected as part of who you are. But when they see minorities like us being proactively living in the communities, that is more admirable. That causes them to ask more questions. Why are you the way you are? How can I learn from you? And maybe I can learn more and get closer to you and see the light eventually. Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam is the best example that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us. He lived these values. Alayhi salatu wasalam lived amongst the non-believers. His own tribe was a non-believer. They exiled him out of Mecca because he believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not a foreign concept to live amongst non-believers so people don't believe in Islam. This is how it started. So alayhi salatu wasalam, was he hateful towards them? Absolutely not. Was he resentful? Absolutely not. Did he hurt them? Absolutely not. It is the opposite actually. Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam was so worried about everyone, believers and non-believers. Why? Because he knew the fate of what's going to happen. He didn't want them to convert so he can be the king or make money. He wanted them to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so they can be spared the punishment that comes to the non-believers. It was not a popularity contest. It was not who gets the most votes. It was not who has the largest tribe. It is out of fear and compassion for his fellow human beings. I do not want you to end up in a place that you cannot tolerate. I do not want you to end up in a place that is not pleasant. And I know the way that can bring you along the right path. I need to live these values first. I cannot be going to school here and doing all kinds of wrong things and expect people to look at me and say, oh, he's a Muslim, I need to imitate him. I need to strengthen my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I need to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching all the time. Raqib Atid. Every action that we take, there's an angel recording that. And the day will come when we're handed back that book. Iqra kitabak. Here's your book, read it on your own. That day is coming. Everything that we do in this life is documented. Father Samarai, Dr. Father Samarai, he's a linguist, he's an Iraqi linguist. He's talking about the scene on Judgment Day. يَوْمَ تَشْهَدُ عَلَيْهِمْ. When your organs start testifying against you. أَيْدِيَهُمْ أَرْجُلُهُمْ. Your hands and your feet and your eyes and your ears, they're testifying against you. You're being there judged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the best you can do is probably not lie, but be quiet. Don't answer the questions. So your skin, your hands and your feet and your eyes and your ears starts testifying. Or instead of going to salah, he was using these feet to go somewhere else. Instead of doing wudu, he was using these hands to do somewhere else. Instead of reading Quran with these eyes, he was using these eyes to look at haram. They were testifying against you. The skin testifies against you too. The one that accompanies you everywhere you go. And in insan fi yawm al-qiyamah, when these things happen, the human being, when these things happen, what is the question? Which organ does the human being ask? The human being asks the skin, why did you testify against me? نشوف الدقة في القرآن. For those who read the Quran, and we've read this verse hundreds of times. شوف الدقة في القرآن. The human being asked the skin, why are you testifying against me? Why didn't the human being ask the eyes or the ears or the hands or the feet? They all testified against you. لأن الله سبحانه وتعالى العذاب, when the skin melts, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replaces the skin. لِيَذُوقُ الْعَذَابِ. This is the organ that feels the pain in the body. The human being is in shock. You are the one that's going to be tortured. You are the organ that's going to feel the pain, and you are the one that is testifying against us. The answer is أَنْطَقَنَا اللَّهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that is making us speak on that day. You have no control over anything on that day. On Judgment Day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks the question, لِمَنِ الْمُلْكُ الْيَوْمِ? Who is the ruler today? In this life, there are many people who are ruling. I rule my body, have some control over my household, some control at work, so there's many rules. But on Judgment Day, when everything ceases to exist, when the angels blow in the horn and everything ceases to exist, and the angel of death ceases to exist, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks the question, لِمَنِ الْمُلْكُ الْيَوْمِ? There's nothing around to answer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَّارِ. It shows two attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Wahid, the one and only, Al-Qahhar, the one that cannot be defeated, that defeats everything. That day is coming, and that book is going to be published, and you're going to read that book. So be mindful of that as you're going through this life. Live in the moment that you're in. In the second part of the khutbah, we'll continue with the same theme. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي. Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadi alladhina istafa. Today we're talking about how to live in the moment and what is required of that. We have a call to action towards the end of what do we do here. So overcoming distractions is also required to be able to live in the moment. So these distractions come in different shapes and forms. The most obvious that we're living today is these digital devices. Move forward, brothers and sisters, the place filled up pretty quickly. These digital devices that we have are one of the biggest sources of distraction. You're standing here and trying to do something, and then you watch buzzes. You look at it. Your attention span is no longer living in this moment that we're in, it's living in a different moment. You're doing work, on your computer doing work, and you're answering emails on Outlook. And all of a sudden a Teams message pops up. It takes you from what you're doing to focus on something else for a few seconds. I thought early on in life, I can do these things very easy. I can have an Outlook window open, a Teams window open, a chat window open. I can focus on all these things and do them all. I noticed that my productivity was suffering at that time. I was not achieving more than 50% productivity in any of the tasks that I was doing, because my attention was divided amongst 3 or 4 different things. Not to mention your phone, and you get a text from your kids, and not to mention everything else that's going on. Someone walks by your office and says hi. So your attention is divided. So these distractions around us takes us away from being able to live fully in the moment that we're in. We need to proactively do something about that. Limit these distractions. There's nothing wrong, in my view, there's nothing wrong with enjoying something. If you enjoy reading the news, if you enjoy watching short videos about something that is Sharia compliant, if you enjoy these things, there's nothing wrong with it. You shouldn't deprive yourself from things that you enjoy. But you should know that these things should have a limited time. Whatever that time is, focus on that. Dedicate 15, 20, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is that your day allows and your time allows for these activities. That brings you joy. But understand that there's other things that need to be accomplished. So when that time is over for these activities that bring you joy, your phone, your iPad, YouTube, or whatever it is, you need to put that aside and focus on what else needs to be done. Don't mix these activities together. You're going to fail at all of them eventually. Living in the moment requires that when you're at the dinner table, that your attention is paid to the people with you at the dinner table. This is not the time to have the phone in one hand and people in front of you in the other. When you're out for a vacation, live the moment. Don't live it behind a 7-inch screen. Take your phone out the whole time and try to record around you. That phone is not here all the time. These recordings need to happen here. You need to enjoy the moment that you're in. See it with your own eyes. Live it fully to the extent. Don't try to live behind that screen because you're going to miss so much. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us eyes that can see probably 270 degrees. With the vision that we have and the peripheral vision that we have, it's probably 270 degrees what we can see. And then you're taking it out, living through a phone that is 7 inches wide. Live the moment that you're in. Overcome these distractions. In the beginning of the Arab Spring, I was consumed by the news, looking at the news the whole time. And it wasn't until a friend of mine said, he asked me a simple question. He goes, knowing what you know, how different things will be. I'm like, what do you mean by that? I didn't get that question the first time. So if you wake up in the morning and read the news that a bomb was dropped at this place, what is your knowledge changing about that event? It's like nothing. How is your knowledge changing what you're doing today here? Nothing. So basically it is time that I spent that has no return on investment there. And I said, well, I'm not spending a lot of time on that. And it wasn't until I actually checked the screen time on my devices and noticed that I was spending 4 to 6 hours on these things. 4 to 6 hours out of the day. 15 minutes at a time, half an hour at a time. You add them all up, the device adds it up for you. 4 to 6 hours is what you spend on things that I cannot change, that does not impact what I'm doing. It's actually having a negative impact on my mental health because I'm stressed all the time, depressed all the time, because you feel incapable. You can't do anything about this. Some of us can do this, some of us can't. So what I did is what they call here is quit cold turkey. Just deleted the apps off my phone. I don't want to see it anymore. I don't want to gradually wean myself off of it. I want to get rid of it altogether. And alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you the strength sometimes to accomplish these tasks. I still get joy from doing little things, but I dedicate time to them. Focus on what really matters. What really matters is now. What really matters are the people around you now. Remember how I said it is not your job to go out and convert everyone to Islam. It is your job to live these values in Islam so they can see that, and on their own they'll figure out what needs to happen. You need to improve that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah, for those of us with gray hair, we lived or we were born in countries where Islam was the only choice. We knew other religions existed, but it wasn't a big deal. It is the other way around here. Islam is not the only choice. And we kid ourselves if we think that our kids believe that Islam is the only choice. And I'm talking about my kids first before I talk about the entire community. If you have kids that were born and raised here or raised here, not even born here, Islam is not the only choice. And it's not like that they can go and pick something up. No, I'm talking down deep in their hearts, Islam is not the only choice. They have questions about Islam that we need to be able to answer. They have questions about Islam that we need to be able to answer clearly and logically. One of my own kids asked me one day, like, how do you know Islam is real? And I was like, I'm ready. That's a question I've been waiting for all my life. The follow-on to that is that don't quote me the Quran. Don't bring me verses from the Quran to tell me that Islam is the true religion. Logically discuss it with me. And how many of us are prepared to logically discuss with an argumentative teenager that Islam is the only religion? Because everything that we're going to say is based on the Quran. And everything that we're going to say is based on something that came from the Quran. And he's like, I don't want to hear this. I want to hear logically. How is that? And you can discuss that by talking about the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala logically. Like, can this all happen randomly here? Like, yes. The evolution theory says that it can randomly happen. I teach biology, or I taught biology at one point in my life. Yes, it is true. Random acts can lead to organized things. However, there is not enough time for the life of this entire universe for something to randomly happen and produce what we see today. It's just not enough time. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. Take the letters of the alphabet, cut them into small pieces of paper, and throw them up in the air. How many times you need to throw them up in the air to form a word? Not that many times, right? One word, it's easy. How many times you need to throw them up in the air to form two words? Not hard either. How many times you need to throw them up in the air, form not only these two words that you formed before, but using these two words and forming a sentence. And then from that sentence, a paragraph. From that paragraph, a chapter. From that chapter, a whole book. A large amount of time. And there's mathematical calculations that can lead to that. So we're talking about these letters of the alphabet, they're very few letters. Think about the DNA, the composite that makes all of us. If this was to happen randomly, to form letters that will make the right amino acids, that will eventually lead to a living creature, and these amino acids need to be preserved, and you continue to build upon them, and these amino acids need to interact with each other. And not only that, you need to make a human being and a complementary human being or a complementary creature to mate with it at the same time. There's just not enough time. 4.5 billion years are not enough. Forget the 100,000 years. 4.5 billion years are not enough to make that. That's how you logically have an argument with someone. So if time is not enough, and these things did not happen randomly, how else could have happened? So something must have created this. Great, we're getting down the right path. That something that created this, is there more than one or one? And then you have that discussion. And you come back to the fact there's only one. If there's more than one, you're going to have multiple disagreements. You continue down that path, and you'll find yourself proven logically to yourself and to others who are asking the question. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one. He created this universe. And this is the religion. How could a God send a message to say believe in multiple gods? How could a God send a message to torture people? A God is a loving God. And that's how you have discussions and prepare yourself for these things. So a call to action here. Something for us to do from this khutbah. These khutbahs were never meant to answer every question. They were meant to intrigue the thought process so you can go back and explore more. Whether you're 6 or 60, it's never too late to learn something. Ask yourself the question when you go back home today. How much time am I spent distracted from living in the moment that I'm in right now? Whether you're 6 and playing Nintendo and someone else is distracting you with that, or doing your homework and being distracted with something else, or 60 trying to read the Quran and you being distracted with something else. Ask yourself the question, how much distraction is in my life? And when you get to that answer, say, how am I going to focus on what I'm doing right now and lessen these distractions a little bit? And take actions based on that to be able to live in the moment that you're in. And my advice is to start with salah. Ask yourself the question, when did I pray Fajr today? Was it on time or when I got up at 9 o'clock? And then ask yourself the question, what if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took the ability for me to wake up at 9 o'clock, paralyzed me? Would that a punishment I want? Or should I focus on getting up for Fajr on time and pray on time? Then ask yourself the question, what did I do to prepare for Jum'ah? What did I do to prepare for Asr? What did I do to prepare for Maghrib, for Isha? How prepared am I? And what do I need to do to improve that? So I can make sure that the salats happen on time. إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says salah is like a written time. It's not when you feel like it. It's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it needs to happen. And you don't know better than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what needs to happen. So to pray all salawats together, I'm not going to say right or wrong. I'm saying this is not what it was meant to be. It was meant to happen at different times throughout the day. Why? To establish that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout the day. So it's not like, hey, it's 8 o'clock now, I'm going to pray Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha together. What were you doing for the past 17 hours or 12 hours throughout the day? What were you doing from 7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night? Where was Allah at that point in time? Where was that connection that needed to happen throughout the day? Do you just need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at 8 o'clock at night? Who took care of you throughout the whole day? Who made your heart beat throughout the whole day? Who prevented a million accidents that could have wiped you clean off the face of this planet throughout the whole day? You? You have no control over this. How many times, and think about yourself, whether you're driving or you're just walking, how many times that a second would have meant that you would not be here today? A second, a split second. How many times you hit the brakes and a bus flew in front of you? How many times you paused to tie your shoes and a car flew in front of you? How many times something fell and had you been a step ahead, it would have been on your head? You think these things happen randomly? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching out for you. What are you doing in return? What are you doing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He ordered you to do? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need us. He doesn't need our prayers. He doesn't need our psalm. He doesn't need our zakah. These things are for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so loving, so merciful that He made these things for us to help ourselves, to save ourselves from the hellfire. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't get any of this. Salah, He doesn't get it. Psalm, He doesn't get it. Zakah, He doesn't get it. Hajj, He doesn't, none of this. It's all for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say, if you fast, wal'iyadu billah, He's in a better place. لو آمن أهل الأرض جميعا. If everyone in this planet believed, from the day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam until the day of judgment, ما زاد الله ذلك في ملكه جناح بعوضة. This will not increase the worthiness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the wing of a mosquito. ولو كفر أهل الأرض جميعا والعياذ بالله. If everyone was a non-believer from the day He created Adam alayhi salam until judgment day, ما نقص الله ذلك من ملك الله جناح بعوضة. It's not going to decrease the worthiness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of mosquito's wing. So it's our opportunity to do good. It's our opportunity to gain good deeds. It's our opportunity to make better on this planet. And seize the time, because those we love are not going to be with us. And with that, we conclude and pray and say, Allahumma ahdina fi man hadayt, wa afina fi man afayt, wa tawallana fi man tawallayt, wa barik Allahumma lana fi ma a'tayt, wa qina wasrif anna bi rahmatika sharra ma qadayt. إنك تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك إنه لا يعز من عاديت ولا يذل من واليت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك يا مولانا عزيز سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات يا إلهنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا دينا إلا وفيته ولا حاجة إلا قضيتها واجعل تجمعنا تجمعا مبرورا وتفرقنا من بعده معصوما مغفورا مرحوما. اللهم ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. اللهم ارحم آباءنا وأمهاتنا كما ربونا صغارا. Oh Allah, we ask You for Your mercy. We ask You to forgive us, forgive our fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, husbands and wives. We ask You to make this gathering a blessing gathering and our separation after that a blessed separation. Our brother here, Dr. Mendo, his mother passed away. Make sure you include her in your prayer. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive her. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make her grave a place from heaven. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make those who are left behind her, steadfast and sabirin. Wa ajrahum ala Allah. Make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them for all the great things that they've done. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima wa aqimu as-salat.
الله أكبر.